I think the biggest mistake that everybody makes is that they fail to plan for the future. I think what's the saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it really holds true for your personal life.
Welcome to another episode of the Prosper Brief. Today we're excited to sit down with Alison Davis, Head of Client Development Partnerships at Citi. She's here to share expert strategies for protecting valuable partnerships and planning for long-term growth. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prosper Brief. Today, I've got Alison Davis from Citi joining us here at the Prosper Forum. Welcome, Allison. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good. How are you?
Great. Having a great conference so far.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
A lot of content. So Allison is Head of Client Development Partnerships in the Private Bank at Citi, where you sit in a unique role between the private bank and the corporate and investment bank, ensuring clients are getting the benefits of both as they grow their companies. Yep. And Citi, a leading global diversified financial services company with over 200,000 employees across 160 countries.
We're small.
Countries.
We're small. We're tiny.
Yeah. And Citi is also an active supporter of the communities where it operates, including almost 10 years partnership and sponsorship of No Kid Hungry, donating nearly $34 million to No Kid Hungry, which is amazing. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And Citi's also a founding title partner, sponsor, and member of the executive committee of Prosper. So we really appreciate the support here.
Delighted to be here. Yeah, thank you.
So I wanted to start with your experience in the restaurant industry.
Yes.
And how you got what was your experience in the restaurant industry?
Well, first, thank you for having me. And yes, I will start there. The background is I actually spent the majority of my 25 years career in financial services. So I spent 15 years as an investment banker, 5 at M&A. I was in equity capital markets at Goldman for almost 10 years. I then went to JP Morgan and the private bank, and I was a private banker there, grew a book of a couple $1 billion, working with entrepreneurs, was amazed that of the 75 companies that I took public when I was at Goldman, I had talked to none of them about pre-IPO planning for them personally, which I saw as a huge gap in the market. But at that point, we'll call it my midlife crisis. I decided to take the leap and become an entrepreneur myself, and worked with a fledgling plant-based cafe concept to try and get it off the ground and ready for franchising. I think the fact that I'm back at Citi, which I will say is where I belong, shows you how well that went. But, I learned a lot about myself, about the industry. And it's really, it's been helpful for me as I've worked with clients in this industry, because I can on some level say I actually get it.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important. And one theme I'm seeing here at the forum this year that everybody's asking before a talk, who in the room, all these CEOs have had experience in the industry, and a lot of people have started, as a dishwasher, as a server. And I think it's very important for you to speak to restaurant clients that have that background like that and to have gone through that. So that's good. So what challenges did you face and what milestones did you hit?
We faced quite a few challenges. I think everyone says that you don't really have a restaurant concept until you've got 3 locations up and running well, right? And the woman that I partnered with really only had 1 at the moment. And we did, for a very short time, we actually had 3, I'll say open, I won't say running well.
Okay.
We also had the issue of the pandemic where input prices were spiking, employer costs to hire people were spiking. And so, the price of a carton of pineapples went from like $30 to $130 overnight. And there were just things that were very, very difficult to control.
Yep.
But I think, it, again, a good learning experience, but definitely some challenges along the way.
And how's it helped you approach clients today?
I think, I always tell clients that there's nothing they can tell me that's going to surprise me, right? I think, you're working at a big bank like Citi and people say, well, you haven't seen what we've seen down in the ditches, and the trenches.
Yeah.
Probably trenches is better than ditches, but
Or the
and I
ditches.
and I say, you'd be surprised how many different aspects of this that I have seen, and it's been great to be able to bring this expertise and this perspective and being able to then leverage the global platform of Citi with the conversations that I'm having. And so I hope the clients find it helpful. They certainly seem to.
Yeah, great. So what do you think restaurant operators should be doing to plan for the future?
Well, I'm going to say first, it's not just restaurant operators, it's everybody.
Okay.
This is one of the big passions in my life. As I said, when I moved from Goldman to JP and saw the big gap in business planning that was out there. I think the biggest mistake that everybody makes is that they fail to plan for the future. I think what's the saying? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it really holds true for your personal life as well. There's sort of two big pieces that I put to that, right? One, when your business is growing and you're seeing that wealth generation growing, there are these amazing structures called trusts. And I think a lot of people they just think of trust fund babies and that they're only for the super wealthy and they don't apply to me right now. But if you're growing and you're going to get there at some point, starting that planning conversation early can really save the family a ton of money in terms of taxes and transfer taxes and estate taxes over the course of their lifetime. Elliot talked yesterday about changing generations of families. And this is another way. No Kid Hungry is one way. This is another way that you can really change the generational trajectory of your family if you get this right and if you plan early enough.
Yeah.
We can't get into all the puts and takes of these. It's a deep conversation that starts with somebody's goals and we help them map out. But at Citi, we have these wealth advisors that really go through those goals and help people think about the different ways that they can structure things to make sure that they're taking advantage of all of the opportunities out there.
Great. No, I think that's an important note that, people think of as trust just for super ultra wealthy families need to be, but it actually, you don't need a whole lot these days, especially if you own a house, where trust starts making sense and people start planning.
You want to get to a certain point where you feel like you can move it outside of your state and you don't need it, right? Because you're moving it to where it's going to go to your beneficiaries. It's going to go to your kids. Yeah. But the power of that, if you do it early for them and the compounding growth over time is really can be amazing.
Yeah. So a lot of restaurant operators here today, partners, there's a lot of partnerships. And as an entrepreneur myself, I like hearing about how people choose partners to be in a business, whether you should have a partner or just do it by yourself, which is difficult too. But what do you think, a partnership should be thinking about to protect the company and the partnership overall?
It's a great question. And it's, again, one that I think a lot of people don't think about, right? They expect that they and their partner are going to continue on and be able to grow this business together. I think the first is understanding how the company is structured and how your ownership is structured, because that's going to have a big impact should something unexpected happen to one of you, right? I think the next piece is understanding what you want to happen if one of you dies or is incapacitated. I mean, do you want your spouse to take over your part of the business? Does your partner actually want your spouse stepping in to take over your part of the business? There can also be very unexpected consequences if your piece of the business needs to be sold to pay for estate taxes, right? And that can have a very unexpected impact on the business itself, not just in terms of ongoing management, but what might have to happen to it. And so, one of the things that we talk to clients about all the time are buy-sell agreements, which, for example, there's 3 partners. The business has insurance on each of those partners. And if something happens to one of them, the insurance buys that piece of the business from, that partner's family. So that there is sort of that succession planning laid out should something unexpected happen. And I think those are, some interesting things for people to think about.
Okay. Yeah. Any other succession planning partners should be thinking about other than these buy-sell agreements with the insurance?
I mean, all of it is, I think all of it is important. I think that, having an agreement in place and having talked about it is really the biggest piece, right? Sometimes the insurance is a great way to do this, right? Because that's what you do to insure against unexpected events. But there's other ways to do it where there's certain pockets where you have, the company is going to step in, or that a child or another person within the family is ready and willing to step in. There's different ways to do it. It's a combination of having the ability to run with things, as well as the money to then pay the estate taxes that are likely to come on the back of that.
Okay. Turning to just the industry overall, the restaurant, hospitality, food service industry, what are some of the headwinds you think are coming up here as we come to the second half, closing out 2024? I can't believe how fast 2024 has been going, and
I know
we're coming in at August here already. But as we close out 2024 and start 2025, do you have any thoughts on that?
Look, I think I work across all industries in my role. So my partner on the investment banking side, Matt Daniel, who covers and runs our very premier restaurant industry investment banking practice, would probably be the best one to answer this. But I'm going to do my best. Yes, another podcast episode. But I think, look, consumer spending, which I think really took off after the pandemic. Everybody had sort of that lockdown extra money in their pocket and really was ready to get out and experience everything. I think, we've seen sort of the tail end of that peter out. But at the same time, consumer spending numbers last month were actually pretty strong. I think interest rates being higher has definitely put the brakes on things. Everyone's expecting those to start to come down in September. The question now is really 25 to 50 basis points. And we'll see where that pans out. And I don't think they're going to go back down to where they were. But at the same time, that should help not only consumers feel a little bit better that we're no longer in sort of the tightest place we've been for 20 years, but also that, that there's some relief coming to that. Okay. And then the last piece is, I think consumers are still so focused on convenience, right? And they love, we're seeing really strong growth in that, fast casual, highly convenient market. And I don't think that's gonna slow down.
Yeah. We had a guest on earlier today, CEO, talking about the third-party delivery apps. Yeah. I thought that was going to slow down, but it's here to stay and good opportunity.
Well, and I was talking to somebody last night who said, look, once people know that they can do it that way, it's really hard for them to go back to the other way.
And just personally too, with my kids, it's like, oh, that's really expensive. But when push comes to shove and you need some food and you've got to take somebody to soccer and somebody here, and it's like, it's convenience, you're paying for it, but it's, like you said, become part of everybody's life.
Absolutely.
On the flip side of that, counter question is, what opportunities do you see for the industry as well, or overall?
Overall, I mean, I think the capital markets are going to be ripe in 2025. There's still just a massive backlog of companies that have not tapped the capital markets, and I think we really expect that to be strong. And I think I'll bring it back to the planning note for a second, that's why now is the time to be talking about and thinking about these things, because you really want to get it done before you go public or before you sell. It makes a much bigger difference. Okay. On the sales side, I think we've already seen M&A activity picking up. We think that's going to continue into 2025. And it's a pretty good valuation environment, right? It's constructive. It's not super high, it's not super low, but really high quality businesses are definitely seeing interest for those that want to tap that. And I think, in terms of the industry, when I was talking to Matt, talking about things like technology and automation, which are really addressing some of those additional pain points, it's going to be really interesting to see what the restaurant industry looks like in 10 years with all of these new technologies coming into play.
Yeah, fascinating to see how that's going to play out. We're actually, talking to one of the marketing officers from Domino's later today about AI and how that's playing out. And to imagine where we are, even just, thinking back 20 years ago before the iPhone, and now and it seems incremental Like at the time, like nobody's thinking the iPhone's that drastic, but if you called yourself 20 years ago and said you had this capability with the iPhone, you'd be like, that's crazy. There's no way we're going to be able to do that. But it just slowly, not infecting, it's improving our lives, I would argue. And
there's some that would say infecting, but that's a whole nother podcast too.
It's a whole nother issue. So I want to turn to Citi's partnership with No Kid Hungry.
Yes.
And I know it must be really important for Citi. You've been a partner and a sponsor for
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about that partnership and what you guys have done?
It is. I mean, it is very important to us, and we're very proud of it. Obviously, child hunger is a very important thing for us to battle and to try and eradicate. And like you said at the beginning, we've given over $34 million to No Kid Hungry in those 10 years, and what amazes me is that equates to 340 million meals.
Wow.
Right. And I actually asked the people that told me this I was like, that's 10 cents a meal. And they said, yes. The way they $1 equates to 10 meals.
Wow.
Which is incredible to me. No Kid Hungry is the only campaign solely focused on ending childhood hunger in the United States. And really working on connecting kids with healthy meals 365 days a year. So it's not just in the schools, it's the summer as well. We are their leading partner, which we're very, very proud of. And right now, I'm going to make a plug. We're doing our Dine and Do Good campaign, which we do annually. And that's where for any Citi card holder, if you register your card for every $5 that you spend at your favorite restaurant, we will give $1 to No Kid Hungry up to $1 million. Wow. So, we're excited about it. We're proud of it. We partner with them in a number of different ways to activate it and to elevate the understanding of the issue and why it's so important. Yeah. And so we're looking forward to continuing it.
Yeah, that's great. And Prosper Forum is partnering with No Kid Hungry as well.
Yes, and we appreciate you guys doing that as well.
Well, we appreciate your support of the Prosper Forum, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule here at the Forum.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And, this has been great.
Yeah, it'll be great to connect with your colleague as well, and we'll keep these conversations going.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Prosper Brief. Allison's insights on partnerships and growth are invaluable for leaders everywhere. Follow us, share this episode, and join us next time for more conversations that drive success. We'll see you soon here on the Prosper Brief.